In this video, I wanted to explain just what I do to actually make a kit. Not all the kits are made the same, but this one was especially labor intensive for me. And I just thought it would be interesting to explain how they were made, what I do behind the scenes, and what happens before you receive your kit in the mail. With this one, first I dyed the wool base, the wool cotton base, and this one doesn't have it, but in some of them there are age spots on it. So first I did that, and then I had to dye the cottons for the binding. Sometimes I dye those twice depending on what color I want. If I want a really dark color, I would do a two-step dyeing process. And I wanted to mention here, when I do dyeing with my natural dyes, with onion or anything that's natural, I do it in the morning and I let it set overnight until the next morning. So I can only do what my stove will handle for 2 large pots per day, which prolongs the process a bit. I find that with natural dyes, the secret to not fading is that step of letting it set in the vinegar and the salt overnight. It really, really does make a difference, and I've been doing that for really as long as I've been dyeing wool, and I've never had any problem with fading. So I first dyed those. Then it came to the pennies. First I dyed the wool, the natural colors, the pinks and the beige and whatever, and once they were dyed overnight and dried, then they were cut into pennies. And I had to wait for my son to cut the pennies. He's not on call every day, so I had to wait a bit for that. Then I have these pennies. Those then go in the dye pot just as they are, and they are an overnight process. And this is what I get. I take them out of the dye. I use a little bit of very mild soap. Rinse, 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 and they are soaking wet. And then I press them to I have a lot of old blankets that I use for this. So I take them soaking wet, press them down, all of them, small ones and large ones. Then I put a cloth over the top and I lightly press with a warm iron to get some of the moisture and the water out. Then those need to air dry. That takes a few days because I don't have heat in the house now. It's not the time of weather where you need heat. So Kitty is very upset with me because Kitty had to stay outside while they were drying. They were on every available table that I had. They were on the floor. They were just everywhere because it doesn't take a lot of room to do one rug, but when you're doing 10, you're going into more than 1,000 pennies, and that's a lot of pennies to put through the house and air dry. I will have a photo of some of the pennies while they're drying. I took a photograph of it. And so once those are dry, however many days it takes, it then becomes those pennies. And I'll show you. I have the little fuzzies on. Then I use the colors and I lay out every kit, 1 penny at a time. This is the one with the open penny. I don't know if you can see that. So I take my pennies, I lay them on, I make sure that every kit works. It looks good. I don't really like that penny. That sort of sticks out to me. So I will use another penny there. I make sure that when you receive your kit, it would be exactly the pennies that I would use. I just don't count pennies and throw them in a bag. Once I have that completed, then I add the top pennies and I make sure those work, because sometimes in the dyeing process the pennies will not dye to my liking. Now this one I couldn't use. This one sticks out. That would ruin the rug. Blue? No. So I make sure with every kit that all of your pennies are going to work. Then, it's still not finished, I take the pennies and I go around and I clip the edges. And I do that with every kit, every penny. So it's quite a bit of work. You still have your frays, but they're not like this. I would tidy that up for you. And so, then it's almost ready to ship. Of course I have to do the string as well. I dye the string, and only then does it go to you to be stitched. That's some of the stains that will be on your fabric. And you then have this. In this kit, when you put the top pennies and onto the bottom pennies, try not to have too much of a contrast. That one works much better than that one. That one works nice on that one. So just be mindful of that. This is your thread. As usual, you pull and half your thread. I will leave whatever is on the rug. I'm going to leave that on. It's part of history. Perhaps you have a use for it. The other part of this rug that I wanted to make sure that you know is normally when you cut the edge of your rug, I say to use the masking tape. With this rug, because of the wool and cotton, this base, it has, on the bias, it has so much of a stretch to it. You're going to run into problems. Put it down below where you are working, and that will prevent it from stretching. You can use 1 piece or 2 pieces, and you can do that while you're doing the binding. It's an easy way to stay your wool. There are some of you that have ordered 2 kits, one of the old and worn and one of the old and aged. I am going to send 1 piece of your fabric. If you would like to do the 2 rugs, you will cut it in half and do it, but both kits have the same pennies, and if you would like to do a large rug instead of just 2 small rugs, you have the option to do that. So those of you that have ordered 2 kits, 1 of each, and I'll also write a note in with those. So that is the process that I went through to do the old and aged. I hope you enjoy making them. I'm certainly not going to have a kit like this anytime soon. It's just way too much work. There really is no comparison with a rug that's just dyed and the pennies cut, and the two-step process where the pennies are cut and then aged again. It really, really makes a difference, and I hope you enjoy doing the kit.